Welcome to the TLW podcast. I'm Jonathan Pixley here with my partner Sean Owens, and we have a very, very special guest. First of all, Dr. Owens, welcome back.
Glad to be back, man.
Our special guest today is Miss Angie Huff, who is the founder and wellness visionary and also a pharmacist at Sync Life here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She's got an amazing story that she is going to share with us today. We are super excited to have you with us.
Thanks for having me.
No doubt.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Angie, correct me if I'm wrong, was a pharmacist.
Yes.
Who basically kind of got tired of the way things were going.
Yes.
And decided, I'm going to do something about it. And so she launched in 2020, right? Sync Life, which is a transformational wellness clinic here in Baton Rouge that does a multitude of things. I have been there myself personally. They took me through the lab. It is an impressive establishment for sure. And we're going to let Angie talk a little bit about that amongst many, many other things. First of all, Angie, as a wellness clinic founder, coming from the pharmacy world, why specifically did you make the transition?
Great question. And there is a lot rooted in that. I started my pharmacy career in 2002, graduated from NLU, was NLU at the time, now it's ULM. As soon as I graduated, we moved to the Baton Rouge area out in Prairieville. Fast forward to 2005, and my husband and I opened our own traditional community independent retail pharmacy. I was in there for 18 years, and if you've ever been in an independent mom and pop pharmacy, you probably knew your pharmacist by name.
Right.
So I was blessed and honored to be able to serve so many clients over those 18 years. But I noticed an alarming trend. Lots of clients were coming in the doors every 30 days. No one really ever left, which was great for business, but it had me thinking. Rarely did anyone get off of medication for chronic illness, but more often they came in with more medications each month. And that list just kept growing and growing and growing. And oftentimes, they were getting on more medication just to combat side effects from previously prescribed medications. So a light bulb went off, and I was like, geez, there's got to be a better way. And what if we really address the root cause of the illness rather than prescribing medication to simply treat the symptoms? I think we get caught up in the symptoms, and we start to treat symptoms without even trying to figure out the root oftentimes. And we sort of think of the symptoms as the actual disease, and that's just not the way to go. So that led me down the path of learning functional medicine and really taking a root cause approach. In functional medicine, that word may not mean a lot to a lot of people, but what it is it's getting away from the Band-Aid approach and treating symptoms and leaning more towards getting to the root cause. When I went to my first functional medicine symposium, what really resonated with me was an image. So the functional medicine image is an image of a huge tree. So picture a big oak tree with lots of different branches. The different branches symbolize different symptoms and different types of chronic illness and disease, okay? And then there's the trunk and there's the root base. When a tree has a sick branch, we don't go in and treat the branch. What do we treat? What do we look at? We look at the root system, right? So why don't we take that approach with wellness? And that's where Sync was born.
So let me get this straight. You are, quote unquote, in the medical world.
Yes.
And you are saying that you want people to be well.
Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
That is and you want them well with natural means, not by just taking medication after medication after medication.
Correct. And there's a place for everything.
Right.
I think there's a place for everything, but and at acute care in this country, we do well. You have a heart attack, you have cancer, we're going to keep the outcomes are good. But what do we do to drive the incidence down of hypertension and cancer? How do we get on the preventative side rather than having to actually treat it?
Okay, so I do have a question for you, and this is, we like to push the envelope a little
Sure.
bit here, okay? And keeping in mind that, you know, our company, TLW, and this podcast is all about people telling their stories, but also getting out of your comfort zone a little bit. So we're going to get to that with you in a little bit, but you know, there are all kind of conspiracy theories in the medical world,
Sure.
right? And that the government has, you know, this and that worked out to where basically medicines only cover up other medicines, and so it's this constant money grab. In the world that you live in the wellness world, do you get pushback from doctors, hospital, anybody involved on that side of it, that ultimately their entire business is based on people being
Sure.
sick?
There's a little of both. We do get a lot of pushback, and there are healthcare professionals that call what we do quackery. Yeah. And, you know, don't believe in supplements and things like that. But then there's also those physicians who this is very patient driven. This is client driven, because I think we're in a world where clients are so much more informed when they walk in the physician's office. Our generation is informed. Our parents' generation, not so much. They walked into the doctor's office uninformed, and whatever that healthcare professional told them, it wasn't questioned. They did it and didn't ask questions.
So you're creating options.
We're creating options.
Different ways of going about treatment, some of which are, well, not some of which, most of which are going to give people an opportunity to do something which will better themselves versus, like you said, just putting a Band-Aid on top of it.
Yes.
Okay, so you run into pushback. Obviously, you believe in what you do. I actually talked to a doctor who's a good friend of mine the other day, and I mentioned the words functional medicine. The reason I did that was because of us doing this podcast. And he said he's a firm believer in it.
Good.
And he said that he feels like he's one of the few right now on his side of the fence, so to speak. But he said there are more and more people who are buying into it, because the doctors that really do want what's best for their patients recognize the value in it.
They have to at least be open-minded to it, right? Because now it's evidence-based. It's no more guesswork. We have the data. We have the measurable outcomes. So it is more science and evidence-based now. And it's okay to say, I don't know, right? I say I don't know a lot.
Okay.
Because I think that builds trust when you can admit that you don't know. So I think we have to do that in the medical profession and say, you know what? I don't know, but I know someone who does.
Right.
And keep it patient-centered.
Right, love it. Okay, so there's a lot of wellness clinics all over the place, here in Baton Rouge especially, right? What makes you different at Sync Life?
Yeah, so I think the term wellness takes on a very broad meaning, and it means something different, I think, to everyone, right? Sometimes wellness just means an aesthetic place. But what makes Sync Life different, and what I am most proud of, is the team that we have assembled. We have one of the most comprehensive integrative teams under Sync Life's roof within the entire region, and I would venture to say probably the whole state of Louisiana. So our physician is certified by the Institute of Functional Medicine. There's only a handful of physicians in Louisiana who have that certification. We have an integrative nurse practitioner. We have myself as an integrative pharmacist. We have a team of nurses, and we also have a team of wellness specialists. So I think just that sets us apart, and I think the broad scope, how we meet every single client, whether it's the 30-year-old mom who is looking to have better mood and more energy to be that mom she has always dreamed of being, all the way to that elite track runner, we meet them where they are in their wellness journey.
Right, because that's how you and I first started talking is, you know, I train athletes, and so looking for places that I can send them to that they can actually get the information that they really, really need. And you mentioned something to me when we first started talking about this, and I actually talked to your husband, Max, about it as well. the study of macronutrients versus micronutrients. Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. So our macronutrients are our carbs, protein, and fats. But micronutrients, just to simplify it, it's your vitamins, it's your minerals, it's your amino acids, it's your antioxidants. Really looking at those on a cellular level can help prevent disease. So if you go back to high school or college human biology, if you remember, there's a hierarchy. There's cells here, then tissue, then organ systems, right? The way that medicine has been designed for years is it's like we want to skip straight to this organ system to treat. But what if we started at the base in prevention and really started at cellular medicine and optimizing things like cellular micronutrients to help prevent disease? And I think a great example and a lot of what people can relate to is vitamin D. You remember vitamin D during COVID?
Yep.
Right? And it was the big thing, vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc. A deficiency in vitamin D can lead to a host of chronic disease, mental illness, cardiovascular health, hormone imbalance. So are we looking at vitamin D? Are we looking at all these minerals and trying to catch these deficiencies and before they turn into something bigger?
That's it's interesting because, obviously I'm a novice in that world, right?
Yeah.
And so I know macros. I
Right.
understand that,
Yeah.
right? And so I go to the gym, and then after I get my workout in, then I'm focusing on what are the macros I need to take in. I feel like I get sick really like once a year, but when I get sick, I get really sick.
Do you?
And so I've always wondered, why is that? And it's been like 8-10 years running, and it's knocks me out for like 2-3 days. Could be the flu sometimes, could be something else, but nonetheless, and I hate going to the doctor because when I go to the doctor, I'm worried they're just going to give me an antibiotic that might or might not work, and this, that, the other. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I could probably eliminate that one time a year by knowing why that happens.
Exactly.
And coming. Okay. Talk to us about some of the services that you guys offer at Sync Life. Again, things that maybe differentiate you guys from others that are out there.
Yeah, so I think to talk maybe about the testing because I think that is what most people want to learn about. We have so many people who come to us after they've exhausted so many other resources with chronic disease, things like autoimmunity, gut health. So we are very data driven, right? So in the world of wellness, talk is talk, but data is proof.
Right.
And so we do and use a lot of scientific approaches to really see what's going on inside of the body. So we look at cellular micronutrient levels. We do a deep dive into hormone levels, both sex hormones and thyroid. We look at inflammatory markers, cardiovascular markers, gut health, which I've talked to you about.
Yes.
Gut health. We look at genetics. Genetics are huge. Personal story, I did my genetics probably 3 years ago and surprisingly found out that I carry the Alzheimer's gene.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's ApoE, and I have the E3, E4, which puts me at 20 to 30% increased risk of developing Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And I tell people that in trying to encourage them to know their genetics, and most people come back with, oh gosh, I don't want to know that. I don't want to know going the rest of my life that I'm going to die of Alzheimer's. But here is why it's important. It's because, like I said, it increases my risk by 20 to 30%. So where's that other 70 to 80%? Where does that come in?
Right.
And that's all the things I do wrong or right during the course of my life.
Okay.
So the optimization that you allow people to experience, I mean, I can see why somebody says, okay, there's a 40% chance I'm going to die from a heart attack, and I can see that being scary, but if that prompts them to change their lifestyle and change how they exercise, change the foods they eat, I mean, how impactful can that data be moving forward?
Exactly.
I mean, that's fascinating.
It is. It's fascinating. And, for things like Alzheimer's, the reason Alzheimer's is uncurable is because we don't address it until the symptoms appear.
Right.
What other disease do we not screen for until you actually get sick from it? Not many, right?
So when you when you have a patient or a client and you give them this piece of data, okay, the 20% chance of dying from Alzheimer's, do y'all then offer counseling, advice, recommendations of, okay, because of this, this is what you need to change in terms of your
Yes. So what we do is anyone that comes in, regardless of what testing, whatever track we go down, they walk out with a customized blueprint of lifestyle modifications centered around optimal sleep, mindset, nutrition, movement, stress management. So there's that. Then they walk out with a customized supplement plan. And then if we need to do any other interventions, they're there. Then we follow up at 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months.
I love that.
Because wellness is not a one-time thing.
Yep.
It's a journey. And once we address, the first thing we do when a client comes in, what are your top 3 wellness goals? And those goals are going to change because we're going to hopefully meet those 3 goals.
And then we're moving on to the next thing.
And we're
from there.
moving on
I
to
love
the
that.
next.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You said mindset. What's the context there?
So wellness is a journey,
right?
And it's the little things that we do every day that are not sexy and not cool that change the course of your wellness, just like I'm sure in your arena, right? It's the little things, and you have to have the correct mindset to be disciplined, to track your sleep, to go to bed at a certain time, to exercise, to eat right. I think the biggest thing in wellness is mindset because it's a lot. It can, to some people, be consuming. Right?
So you heard it not just from us, you heard it from an expert here, okay? So we may have mentioned those things to you in the past, right?
We have had full episodes devoted to mindset.
Yeah. In fact, we've thought about bringing in a mindset coach into the business because I think it's huge.
Yeah, it is incredible to see how that is lacking with clients of ours as well at times, and they don't even realize it. They go about their day-to-day, and they feel they get in the rut, right? And then they keep getting stuck in the rut, and they get stuck in the rut, and it's because they're unwilling to make any changes. And it's not even necessarily, I say unwilling, it's that they don't even recognize the changes that need to be made, right? Which is similar to what you deal with because, people, okay, I'm pretty healthy, I'm fine. But then when they turn 50, 55, 60, and all of a sudden things start falling apart, it's like, why did this happen? I was fine. Yeah, but it was everything that you did leading up to this, right? Interesting. Okay, I want to transition a little bit here because you opened Sync Life in 2020.
Yep.
And everybody knows what was going on right around then.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you asked that.
So talk about the struggle of the pandemic and your decision to open then.
Well, ironically, we opened literally the day that the state shut down. Literally.
Okay, hold on. You have to hear this then. And Jace Augustus, who is behind the scene right now running the camera, was in this, okay? The day the state shut down, okay? The day that the LHSAA, which was the Louisiana High School Athletic Association, shut down athletics, was our state championship game, one of the state championship games that we played at the high school that I used to coach at. And it went from all in one day to where we were going to have about 2,000 people in a gym that couldn't fit 2,000 people. And then it went, okay, well, parents and family can come. And then it went to nobody could come. We played a state championship game in front of basically nobody.
Wow.
So
That's eerie.
So you talk that, so ultimately the same day.
Same day, which, do you remember what the date was? Was it March 13th?
It would have been March, yeah.
Was it the 13th?
Don't tell me it was the 13th.
I don't
need
know.
to go
I hope
back
it
and
wasn't
look
a
at that.
Friday.
It probably was the 13th.
We weren't going to go into conspiracy stuff on this episode, but
So it was March of 2020, and I am not exaggerating. It was the day, which, as devastating as it was a bit of a blessing for us in the way that, like I said earlier, people were scared, right? There was panic. There was no cure. There was no vaccine at the time. But what were we hearing? Vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc. And that was really new to a lot of people back then. I mean, we've come a long way in 5 years in wellness and awareness of health. So what better place to go than a professional grade supplement store with a pharmacist on duty? So it allowed me to serve in that way. And we literally were giving IVs curbside for people who had
Right.
COVID, all gowned up, weren't letting people in the store. People were popping their trunks, and we were putting the supplements in their trunks.
Wow.
So it was a wonderful place for me to be able to serve the community.
And I'll bet you got to connect in a much different way than
Yes.
others
Yeah.
who had to basically remove themselves
Yes.
from society
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
So that's really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so since then, let's talk about any obstacles you feel like you've had to overcome to grow the business, and changes that have been made over the last 5 years throughout the growth process.
I think probably the most challenging thing, but it's a good challenge, is this is a very fast-moving industry.
Right.
There is something new every single day. I think probably one of our biggest hurdles right now is there are a lot of national people. There's your Gary Breckes and your Mark Hymans and things like that that people are following and going online and doing these tests online without really seeing a provider, and not realizing that we are here in their backyard.
Right.
And they can come straight to us face to face and get care, and not just a list of laboratory values that they really don't know what to do with. And we do have people doing that now. They'll get their results back from Gary Brecka and they don't know what to do. So they will come in and set up an appointment, and we will interpret it for them. I think that awareness.
Okay, that's the issue.
It's a new business
Sure.
hurdle, right? But we've grown exponentially over the last 5 years. So it's been great.
Okay, so anybody watching this, and anybody who eventually watches this or gets word that you were on the podcast, and the Sync Life is a legitimate business that is growing over the last 5 years, they show up to your office, and they walk in and they're skeptical. Okay, first of all, reasons why people are typically skeptical of the wellness industry, and then your responses to those.
Yeah, so I think skepticism comes from there's so much information out there, right? So wellness could mean like a juice cleanse, or it could mean a full protocol like we're doing. And I think there's just a lot in between. So I think we take the noise out because we are so science-based, because we run the extensive testing, and because we have the qualified medical team. We meet patients where they are. And not only that, we provide measurable outcomes. So again, it's not just talk, it's data, it's tangible, and people are feeling better. And I think here what helps us a lot is referrals. So our growth in the last 5 years, I would say, has been 90% organic growth through referrals.
When you say referrals, you talking about existing clients, or are you talking about certain people within medicine that are?
No, so client to client.
Okay.
Yep. You help people feel better and look better, and other people start asking them, gosh, you look so much better. What do you do? And then other people want to share. I always want to share things. I want to share things down to a great Netflix show that
All
I
of it.
watched, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's empowering for people to share how they became their better selves with other people. So it literally has been a huge organic growth just through word of mouth.
I don't know how much of this you can share, and I know HIPAA and different things eliminate some of that. But can you give us an example of a success story without giving away anything that you're not allowed to? Like, give us an example of things that Sync Life has done to really, really make other people's lives better.
Yeah, that is obviously the most rewarding thing, and why we do what we do. I've run into people everywhere, on the tennis court, at the gym, in the grocery store, and they come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you're Angie with Sync," and they just tell me everything that we've helped with. And I owe a lot of credit to my team. I don't take all the credit. The biggest one that stands out, and because I feel like your audience is mainly a male-based audience, I'll share this story. But this story is, everybody's tired, everybody's run down, nobody's sleeping well, everybody's burning the candle at both ends, but still trying to be their best selves. So this story was a 40-something-year-old male, former athlete, currently high-performing executive, came in, was not sleeping well. He described himself as tired but wired at night, so he couldn't shut it down. He wasn't.
Sound familiar?
Yeah.
Stop telling my story.
Right. He wasn't waking rested in the morning, like the alarm clock just kept going off and hitting, and he kept hitting snooze. He felt like he wasn't as sharp mentally, and he was losing, he described it, his ability to concentrate. Like he was just kind of all over the place. And was complaining of like some GI discomfort, like heartburn and things like that. So he came in on the vitality track. We ran the micronutrient test, all of his inflammatory markers. He sounded like he probably had some methylation issues, so we ran a methylation test, gut test, and then we did the saliva adrenal test. And sure enough, he came back. He was adrenally compromised. He wasn't producing enough cortisol in the morning to get out of bed, but he was having that weird spike of cortisol at night that was keeping him up. So it's almost like his cortisol output was flipped from what it should have been. So we regulated his cortisol with some adrenal adaptogens. We supported his methylation mutation with methylated B vitamins. We got him on some testosterone because his testosterone was in the 400s. For his age, we'd like to see him anywhere from 800 to 1,000. So we started him on testosterone. What else? Oh, we healed his gut because he had some gut microbiome issues. Came in after 3 months, described himself as sharper at work, but what made him the most happy was, he said, not only am I sharper at work, but when I get in the evenings, I have the stamina and the emotional wherewithal to play with my kids and enjoy my family. Awesome. And I honestly think while that wasn't an initial complaint, I think that's what meant the most to him in the end.
And it's what's supposed to be the most.
It
right?
is.
And by the way, for the viewers and listeners, all of those big words she just used, I didn't understand them either, which is a good sign because it means she knows more than we do. So we might ought to go to Sync Life and check it out. Last two things for you. Okay. If somebody wanted to get started at Sync Life, what would they do?
Yeah, so I would encourage them to go to synclife.health. Our website is a wealth of information. So it puts everything in very simple terms. You can request a free consultation online. That'll get you in contact with one of our wellness specialists who can tell you more about everything that we do. I usually recommend coming in on the vitality track. Okay. That's where we measure the initial 102 wellness markers. You come in, you meet with our nurse practitioner, we look at that data, and then we look at your health goals. Look back at your medical history all the way from childhood, because believe it or not, things that happen during childhood can have a drastic impact on your adult life. And then we provide you with a whole blueprint.
That's awesome.
On how to achieve wellness.
And I've been waiting to ask this question.
Okay.
If you had to sum up what Sync Life's philosophy or what you're about in one line, what is it?
That's a tough one. I think it's just getting people to their optimal selves. We have so many people who walk in and they're exhausted and they don't know where to go. So really getting people to their optimal performance and just feeling well using science and data.
Quality of life.
Quality of life.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. This is Angie Huff, Sync Life owner, pharmacist, and wellness visionary. Angie, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. It was great.
Really appreciate it.
Yep.
And so if you have any questions about any of the things that Angie covered, and the reason why we had her on is this is important information. It's important that we are aware of the fact that there are answers out there to questions that you may not even know that you need to ask. Mm-hmm. And if you are interested, which I know most of us out here are, in being there for our loved ones and actually having an impact on the people that come across us during the course of every day, and love our families and want to be there for them and want to be there for them for a long, long time, there are ways that we can enhance that process and just make our lives better on a daily basis. And Angie and Sync Life are people who provide that for us. So again, we appreciate you stopping by. And to our viewers, we're going to close it on that. Go get it.